Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to the SpiderBot. Today we're going to be working with the IO expansion board, and we're going to be soldering onto it as well as soldering connections here and here so that we can give power to the IO expansion board. Before we do that, we do need to cut into the board. So what you're very carefully are going to do, you're going to cut your voltage strip. If you see there's ground voltage signal, GVS, you're going to cut the voltage. There's like a little indent in there. You'll see like two dark lines. Cut the blue between those two lines. And you're going to do that there, and you're going to do it here as well. This part right here. And that will allow you to be able to isolate the voltages so that the buck converters don't like draw amperage onto each other, and then one of them gets too much amps and then it explodes and sets on fire and whatever. So we're gonna do that. Alright, so I got some tweezers. I'm gonna be cutting the voltage strip right there. These are metal. You want to make sure they're pretty sharp and pretty pointy, so I'm gonna carefully scrape this right there. You want to be really careful with it. You don't want to try to touch anything else.
We're gonna wait up for finesse or not?
Alright, there you go. So if you look really closely right there, hopefully the camera can maybe focus. It does not focus. Okay, well, there's like a little gap between the two copper strips. You want to split the Red Seas with this one. You're going to split the copper with this one. And that's going to isolate the voltages. And you're going to want to do that here as well. Alright, there you go. This is a little bit more clear. It's a broken copper. It does not focus. Okay, GoPro is not goody. No goody GoPro. Copper is cut. Should be cut. You want to isolate that. If you scratch into the sides, it's fine, because the ground runs through everything. Same thing with signal. But you do want to make sure that this is completely isolated. If you don't, then one of your bucks is going to over voltage or over amp. It's going to get fed too much current, and it's not going to go well for your SpiderBot. And you're going to find out the hard way. Before we put the IO expansion on, we will be soldering onto 2 points on the board. The rest is just going to be connected to the DuPont male connectors, the pins. We will be soldering onto one of the grounds and the 5 volts. Basically, we're going to be providing power from the buck converter. That's going to be 5 volts. So we're going to calibrate these to be 5 volts. And then also ground is going to be your negative, and together that's going to create your charge and your electricity. We will not be using V in. V in is voltage in, but that is if you put unregulated voltage in. So we will just be putting ground and 5 volts. Since 5 volts already assumes that it's a clean, nice 5 volt input, which is what you guys will be doing with the buck converters. So we will just hot glue that right on. And once that's hot glued on, now we're going to prime the pins. And if you remember, we'll be using the ground and the 5 volt. Don't look at that. I messed up. Don't look at that. Just look at these 2 pins right here. These 2 are ground. Right here is 5 volts. So we're going to be soldering right there. So let's just prime the pin. As you saw with the buck converter, we're doing the exact same thing. This is a pretty dirty solder. And then prime the pad. A little tap. So you want to have some nice solder on it so that when you put your wire in, it will be nice and connected. And I'll be using the rightmost ground connector so that I don't accidentally like combine the 5 volts and the ground by accident. So I'll be putting that right here. Now that is input there. So now you're going to get your 2 wires. I already stripped and tinned these 2 wires. You guys already saw how to do that. Look at the last video if you want to know how to do that. It's pretty simple. You just strip it, put some solder. You guys already, I trust you guys. So now you're just going to solder right onto the topmost buck converter. You're going to put it in out negative. That is where it's going to feed the voltage to the IO expansion, to the circuit. So you're just going to nicely... Alright, so that's the negative. Now let's do the positive. Alright, so that is nice and connected. That is a pretty good connection, pretty nice and clean. Yeah, so you just want to make sure that is that. This is probably going to be a little tough since it's really small connections. You want to make sure they don't touch the different pads. But yeah, I believe in you guys. I believe. So now we're going to be soldering more wires onto the 2 buck converters right here. So we're going to be using the female to female DuPont wires. Those are these ones right here. The ones with the 2 holes so that you can connect to pins. We're actually be cutting these in half. So you're going to get some clippers and you're going to measure how far it's going to go. For this top buck converter, we will be using a ground and a voltage that goes to here. And then for this bottom buck converter, we'll be using a ground and voltage that goes to here. So bottom goes to here, top goes to here. So you're just going to measure and cut and tin, which you guys should know how to do that already. So I've done that already. Here you go, nice and tinned and cut to the length so that it not only fits but also has room to breathe in case I want to change the length. So now I'm just going to solder these 2 connections, and brown can also be used for ground, and same with white for voltage. So whenever you connect your circuits, you want to do black or brown for negative and red and white for positive. That's just the way you got to do it. So let's just solder that right on. It's going to be 2 soldered connections onto one pad, so you need to be a little careful. But yeah, speed gamer. Alright, so we got these 2 connections soldered on. We got 2 and 2. So basically this buck converter is going to be providing power to this part of the sector of the IO expansion board, and also this part of the IO expansion board. Because when we cut into 3 sections for the voltage. 1, which you cut in here. 2, which you cut here and here. And then 3 is going to be the rest of the board. So now we're going to be doing a pro gamer move, and we're going to be soldering wires from here, or just connecting wires here, but soldering it on the bottom buck converter right here. So you're just going to run your wires through. Let's get some tweezers since you need to do some pretty precise work. Negative is going to be your black, so we're going to put it in out negative right here, out negative. And then positive is going to be white for this wire, and so you're going to put it in out positive. And then these 2 are going to connect just right anywhere in this section right here. Let's put it all the way back here. Ground goes to ground, and white goes to positive.
For what?
I cut these wires a little too long, but that's to give breathing room. You guys can be more precise with it. So let's work on the negative, and let's be a freaking actual game. Oh my gosh. So it's gonna be pretty hard. You guys can do it beforehand, but low key, we build different, right?
Yeah. So.
I want to do it
for certain meals. Walls are pretty thick, so.
Dinner.
I always
like, I don't understand.
Alright, beautiful. That is nice and secure.
Yeah, exactly.
So now let's just beautifully solder this white wire into the outs. Alright, beautiful. So now that is soldered on. Alright, so that's going to be all for this video. We got the IO expansion board hooked up. This is where your Epic Arduino is going to be connected to. Although I don't recommend putting it on now, as it is pretty fat, relatively fat. So it's going to take a lot of space for you to work. And next video we'll be putting in our batteries and calibrating the buck converters so it doesn't give too much voltage or too little voltage to the entire circuit. And I will see you guys next time.
Together, we see if it works.